Watch any Apple event and you'll notice that the buzz in the air is electric. Store openings look like modern-day Viking raids. People grovel over the latest phones as soon as they're announced and spend fortunes a year keeping up with new products. On the flip side, the employees seem to be just as adamant about maintaining the excitement. Uniformed, specialized, and eager to help you assimilate to the latest operating system or product, these die-hard employees wear their pride on their sleeves. Who wouldn't want to be part of such an exciting and spectacularly successful group? Group? Did I say group? Similar clothing, similar logo, similar lingo, similar knowledge. Yeah, these guys must be a group. Well, not so fast. Yes, they're a group, but beyond their similarities, how am I aware that they're a group? The answer is entitativity. Say it slow. Entitativity. Entitativity. Now on the map of my favorite words, entitativity means the perception of an entity. In this instance, the Apple company is perceived as said entity, or better yet, a social group. Claiming that the group members show entitativity means that you're aware of the occurrence of the following amongst members: similarity, communication, interdependence, and group structure. Perceived entitativity allows us to make sense of why we get the feeling that what we're beginning to focus on is the sum of the parts, rather than the parts themselves. Why a group, though? Ever helped someone lift something heavy? Ever borrow anything? Ever rely on anyone? Well, then there's why, though. Groups unite to help pool resources and overcome common obstacles. In other words, when something propels people to act in unison, we begin to identify those individuals as a group. The social identity approach states that a group is a group when the members define themselves at least in part by the group, and the members feel good about their membership. Steve Jobs and the rest of the C-suite executives responsible for Apple's development did just that when they banded together in their vision to ensure that there's a Mac in every home. Jobs had a vision, and he was surrounded by top heads from every walk in life. He just needed to unite them in a shared vision. He indeed understood the recipe for creating a group, and over time, the group developed into something extravagant. There are, by the way, milestones to group development. They're not always in sequence, nor always necessary. When forming, things happen fast. Apple went from a few guys working on computers in a residential home, arguing about business tactics and grander visions, to orchestrating a worldwide operation involving hundreds of thousands of people. The company took shape in 1976 and has since reformed the way we interact with technology. The storming phase could be said to have been during the first 10 to 15 years, when the company was trying to figure out its direction and revolving ownership, coupled with drastic changes in product lines, signaled a stressful time for the company. According to a study conducted by Ripsons and John, conflicts during this time may increase productivity. This is because many aspects of the developing group get questioned and discrepancies tend to get hashed out. Granted that the leadership within the group understands the need for discussion and mediation if necessary. Careful to not add too much fuel to the fire, it's best to not have something up for debate longer than necessary, else the conflicting group attitudes polarize. Apple has excelled at keeping people unified and involved in the company processes. They are made to feel as important, contributing members of the group. Apple was known for heavy brainstorming sessions involving all levels of personnel. They used something similar to what our book referred to as the nominal group technique. In the initial stages of the brainstorming group, people come up with ideas individually or in very small groups, before offering a presentation to a slightly larger group. In this way, people are less inhibited by the rules of group engagement. Take turns, speak one at a time, and more engaged in producing ideas. The social norms that take precious time out of brainstorming sessions, we call these process losses, and more specifically, coordination losses, as a reference to the time spent obeying norms rather than expounding upon one's ideas. Let's talk about the man behind the company, Steve Jobs. Jobs was in and out of the CEO position during the first half of his tenure at Apple, and after recruiting the help of Gil Amelio in their quest for corporate restructuring, significant cuts were made. They were downsizing to upgrade. Apple slimmed down to only offer a few quality products, and the world took notice. The company was putting out and the customers were loving it. This could be described as the norming and performing stage of group development. They figured out what worked, standardized it, and put into place effective routines to keep things flowing. Later, around 2008-2009, Jobs fell ill, and some thought the company would tank, as much of the success was credited to his visionary approach. The threat of disbandment was very real. Yet Jobs had the company set up for success, in placing at strategic points the people he felt could carry forth his vision in his absence. In an article for the Harvard Business Review, Jim Collins defines the Level 5 CEO, a definition that reminded me of Jobs. The resounding difference between Level 5, the ultimate level, and any lesser level CEO is that the Level 5 CEO successfully passes on the legacy of the company by carefully selecting choice successors. This level requires that a fierce seed of productivity be present from the beginning. Steve Jobs is what we'd call a Level 5 CEO. For instance, then COO, now CEO, Tim Cook took Jobs' place during a 6-month personal leave of absence, and Apple continued to do well. Charisma and expertise will only get you so far, because it takes a very structured and rooted vision to band together hundreds of thousands of people to carry out a grand vision. As glamorous and inspiring as Apple's uprising is, there is a dark side. The company culture reflected an ethos I'd learned in the Marine Corps: mission accomplishment first, troop welfare second. The primary task is to do your job. The secondary task is to feel good while doing your job. At Apple, that means a lot of job. Regular weeks include 70 to 80-hour stints. The striking resemblance to what's called 996 culture in other parts of the world does not bode well with many people in the US. Often these long hours would be expected, not requested, and thus the tech startups have gotten a reputation for burning through fried-out workaholics, as they know that there is always someone in line to step up and take up the proud position of working at Apple on some new and exciting stuff. This is exactly how normative conformity allows inhumane expectations to exist. This is also the grounding for what we call groupthink. With no one to question the fierce standard, those who feel out of place feel even more so alienated, perhaps to the point where they give up trying. As the social identity of the group, in this case, excited engineers, is understood and a prominent attitude emerges, the heightened stress and lack of information creates a herd mentality amongst peers, who then become fearful of speaking out, even in light of what's happening in front of their eyes. Although, if incentivized properly, thinking as one can be productive. As we understand motivation, the intrinsic and extrinsic factors at play for Apple go a long way in keeping people in order. External rewards like product and service discounts and opportunities for career education kept some people around, whereas others were more satiated by the pride in the vision and glory of such a fantastic company, this being a form of intrinsic motivation for them. Loose dress codes, company meals, and penalty-free fraternization, among other things, were more external rewards offered. At some point in time, stock in the company, new phones, and other things were additional perks that came with the job. Apple's thoughts on employee turnover are generally positive, reassuring exiting employees that they now possess employability security. In other words, that they have more market value by association. Leaving Apple opens doors in other tech giant companies and offers individuals a leg up on their competition. Apple is very aware of its attractive nature and believes that when an employee leaves the company, they are taking with them invaluable skills that one can only attain via revolutionary career opportunities at such places like Apple. Being recognized as one of the world's most admirable companies a few years in a row definitely influences those leaving to hang on to the pride that is associated with Apple's work culture, thus making it a little bit harder to make the separation. Obviously, as a company grows, not everyone can be pleased, and when a group is not feeling good, performance typically suffers. There are a few things noted in the case study I reviewed that stood out as unsavory regarding the corporate practices at play, which quite frankly I think stunted the company's performance, albeit not drastically, but certainly enough to have folks speak out. First of all, being a big tech company, secrecy is paramount. Employees were not allowed to blog at first, but then Apple was forced to pay $700,000 in lost lawsuit damages to retain one employee's freedom to blog. Since then, plenty of Apple employees have had their voices heard online, even some of the higher-ups. Secondly, it's been reported that those in the loop at Apple consistently led reporters, analysts, and even their own employees astray as to what they were working on, in hopes of retaining the shock and awe we've come to expect at product releases. It's been reported, too, that at certain laboratories, the project being worked on was to be done under a dark cloak, with a red light on, to warn others that the knowledge therein is classified and on a need-to-know basis. Granted, the secrecy was to stay ahead of the competition, but the misleading information makes me think that it would have been quite the elephant in the room at times when employees caught on to the smoke and mirrors. Information sharing must be organized, especially within transdepartmental teams where the literal distance between parties created the need for more consistent and relevant communication. Overall, the success of Apple occurred on 3 interconnected levels: the employee, the company, and the culture. Taking a look at Apple's journey shares with us the many aspects of our social psychology that are present when addressing a group's performance. And although it may be quite glorious from the outside, there are many realities that reinforce the subtle, yet crude nature of our group dynamics. As an avid Apple product user myself, I hope you enjoyed the content as much as I did. My name's Chase Allen. Thanks for watching. Now go forth, being kind to yourself and others.